Good day to you all. My name is Vic Miles. Welcome to Beyond the Tech. Today, I'm excited to welcome Namrata Collins to have a conversation beyond the tech. Namrata is a seasoned leader in both tech and business sectors, and I didn't have to think, too hard to find out who would I want to join me on Beyond the Tech for a conversation. But beyond her professional commitments, Namrata is deeply involved in community work, particularly causes related to women and children. Her varied interest and commitment to her work and community, leading with compassion and conviction, is why I wanted her to this audience to hear from her. So you and I are here as thought leaders in the industry as a whole, and the commitment that each of us, including the audience, brings to our respective businesses' mission, how we bring that to fruition. And you and I spoke about this channel, and you expressed interest in and potentially co-hosting with me at times. So can I put you on the spot and ask if you're still up for bringing your thought leadership to our conversations?
I would love that. This is such a great platform. And my hope is, we go to other places to learn. My hope is over a period of time, this platform will also become one of those platforms where people come to learn.
Great. Thank you again for being here. And you and I have known each other for many years, but I expect your story is richer than even I know. And so we'll get into that a bit. But before we dive into industry and tech and all things, retail, I'm always interested in what innovative consumer apps you like. What's one application that you think has shaped our lives, broadly?
That is such a great question because we all use newer and newer technologies every day. There is a stress buster, there's a Get Slim, there is, you name it, and there is an application. I specifically think Tinder has changed the way people find their life partners and the way people find dating. It is no more, I don't think bar is that place anymore where you go to meet people or typically, college campus and such. I think that has changed such a foundational human thing that I feel like it will change the world for better if it hasn't already.
Outstanding. So there's no hidden meaning there. There's nothing you want to tell us. That, I happen to know your husband as well, and Emmanuel does he know that you have an affinity for Tinder and what it's done for our community? I'm just kidding.
He does. He does. We talk about he's a technologist himself, and we talk about this stuff all the time. So yes, he does, and there is no hidden agenda here.
Outstanding.
I want to ask you, what is one application that you think has changed the world or will change the world?
Thanks for the question. For me, and whether or not it's changed the world at large, for me, I like the app Vivino. It is a wine cataloging and shopping application, and it was started by two Denmark startup folks, and they wanted a way to learn more about wine. And I happen to be a wine enthusiast, so Vivino, it's Vivino, and you can take a picture of a bottle, and it will actually turn that picture into the vintage, the actual the terroir, they call it, the vintage, and then and show you, and then let you rate it, and you can see it's fabulous. It's changed the way that wine selection has done, I think, across the world. It's the largest wine marketplace in the world right now. It's one of those apps that is always on my phone.
I have to try that out because usually when I like a wine at a restaurant, I take a picture of it. Yep. So I remember which was the one that I like. And now that you tell me, I can upload my pictures.
What's the most significant change you've seen in the role that tech plays in our industry?
In my opinion, the one thing that has changed retail and shopping forever is two-day shipping, and layer on free two-day shipping on top of it. I think it has changed the way we all shop. Families, kids, I've seen people abuse the two-day shipping, but that I think is foundational to the way we shop now. Outside of that, the 24/7 access to shopping, the mobile commerce, and people shopping all the time. And the one thing that we see more and more of that I appreciate a lot is personalization. because it makes shopping so much easier, regardless of what you're shopping for. So, in my opinions, I do think that in some cases, technology is the business because to take this business forward, technology is front and center now.
That's amazing. I think that 2-day shipping did change the way I think about the business as well, and now you can shop on the fly. Thank you for that. I'm interested now in looking forward, right? And what are your thoughts on how tech will be a game changer in a lasting way in the global market? And in my earlier post here on this channel, I talked with my guest about the things that perhaps weren't as lasting. But do you have a sense for what you think will take hold? And none of us has a crystal ball, but I'm certainly interested in your thoughts here.
I think we're all speculating here, but I think shopping will become more and more interactive, where I feel like not just chat, which is on a lot of websites now, but also things like I upload my picture and it shows what an apparel looks like, or I tell or what my dietary needs are, and then websites create shopping lists for me. I feel like it will become more an interactive experience with all the latest technology that we have. We have digital brands like Temu and Shane that we all are watching for to see how it will change the industry. If you haven't, you will notice that the pricing there is so much lower than regular apparel or fashion merchandise. So I also think that there is a whole bunch of social media merch sellers now that will make a huge difference and will take retail in a new direction. But I think if I think of one most lasting thing that will happen, it is an interactive shopping experience.
So thank you for that. It's fascinating to think about always on shopping. And so now I want to sort of merge your thinking about personalization and sort of brand affinity, right, to a particular brand, whether it happened to be a consumer brand like a polo or something, or a retail brand. How much do you think that sort of the capabilities and the services that are offered, do they need to widen to really become a lifestyle brand for a consumer, or is it enough to have the right item, right price in stock?
I think that's a really good question. So in my opinion, as we think of personalization, I think of a merchandise organization changing for different body types, different colors, different skin colors, different ethnicities, and so on. If I had to speculate, as personalization increases, we will see more and more of them. If you go to a country like India, what personalization looks like is most expensive products are custom made. So I think getting to custom made is a longer journey here in the United States, but I also feel like bonobos. You give your measurements and it builds merchandise specifically for you. I think that personalization, outside of just the look and feel of it, it will evolve into ways of assimilating more and more different kinds of shoppers. What are your thoughts around it?
Gosh, so personalization for me does drive a lot of brand affinity. I tend to be, and we'll talk about it later, I may not be the future target audience, right? But I tend to be pretty loyal, if you will, to a brand, generally for shoes, for instance. Of all the shoes I have 2 brands, right? I don't even, if they don't, if my shoe brand doesn't make it, then I don't need it, kind of thing. And so they have sort of captured me and they are part of my lifestyle. And so I enjoy that. I'm not sure, a lot of people like in the market today, like the broad range. And so I loved what you said about it. Yes, the range is broad, but we all could find a lane, right? Yeah. Whether it is tailored to your particular body type or your ethnicity, or maybe even the work that you do, right?
Absolutely.
There's these casual tech brands out there that
Absolutely.
now that we're all we're no more ties at work,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So
Yeah. And I feel it's different for different people because for somebody, price point may be the most important thing and they continue to stay in that lane. And for someone, experience and personalization may be everything. So because our shoppers are such a wide range, I feel like it'll continue to be different things for different people.
So my initial thought about bringing engaging thought leaders on this platform was to get the more human side of tech. And we could talk about the tech side all day long, but I want to get your thoughts about AI and how you see the humanness of AI. Are we doing enough? And I say we, the broad industry, are we doing enough to sort of make sure that AI is an augmentation of what we need and not a replacement? And you can sort of take that wherever you like, but I'm just interested in your thoughts about AI.
I feel that AI is a blessing to humankind when used with the right governance, the right intentionality, in my opinion. There is a lot of conversation out in the market on what will AI do to the jobs. Personally, for me, just to share with you, Vic, I was having Wi-Fi issues right before this conversation. So I don't expect AI to take my job anytime soon. And I'll see the same for others as well. I think what becomes important is that we become comfortable with working with technology and focus on those human aspects like communication, leadership, um, thought leadership, even, and ability to build teams, ability to work with people. Those are factors that will continue to be extremely important. There are huge ethical considerations as well. We've all been reading and talking about recruiting platforms that can have adverse impact, that can be a cause of lack of fairness or introduce bias. The last thing I would say is trust and transparency. It is important that we somehow maintain the transparency um, because it's important for consumers to understand if AI is making a recommendation, what are the inputs and how's that output derived? So trust increases. But all in all, I do think it's a blessing if the right governance is provided to AI.
Thank you for that. I think that your left to right view of that topic is I appreciate the balance. And again, this is why I wanted to speak with you and to have the audience sort of hear from someone who thinks deeply about this topic and is connected to the community. And so there's nothing I want to add to your answer at all. So thank you. That was brilliant. And so there's the landscape that we're in, right? There's just retail all up, whether it be the consumer product side that is delivering, more and more innovation in products that consumers want, or the tech side that is delivering capabilities and expansive services. How do you stay current with all the goings on in tech? I'm interested in whether you are still reading daily blogs. Are you doing podcasts and listening to most of your content, or how do you do it?
So my learning style is not reading. But I'm so deep into podcast world. I'm so deep into videos and the blogs as well. So I do have a philosophy there, though. In my opinion, as leaders, it's not enough for us to only know and knowledgeable about things that are in our lane. To provide leadership to large organizations, we have to know about what we do, but also know about what's happening in the world. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I attend conferences. I read blogs. One of the things that I really believe in, I'm mother of 2 college-going kids. I really believe in reverse mentoring. To understand where a business will go in the future, it's important to understand how the next generation is using technology to shop or go about their daily lives. So that's work. But outside of work, I love learning about things that I can do nothing about. So I'll give you a few
Wait, I want to make
examples.
sure I heard you there. You love learning about things that you can do nothing about.
Yeah,
You're a spectator.
like world matters, what's happening in world politics, how's the economy going around in the world. And I feel like they cause I think it gives you perspective in the whole. You know that how the world economy is progressing, but you know, I can't make an immediate effect on it. But I do think as leaders, it's important for us to have that global perspective. So, a few podcasts that I would recommend. I listen to The Daily. It's a podcast that will give you visibility into all the global topics. I listen to Hidden Brain. So, Hidden Brain is a podcast that is social aspects. So it talks about a lot of how the world is changing in terms of social aspects. So I listen to that. I listen to the Journal. That's another podcast that will give you. Um, they pick topics across the globe, which is really helpful because in today's news media, you run on a loop on the latest incident that happened. So I feel like it broadens my perspective. And lastly, like I said, I love surrounding myself with college hires, with those people that are just starting their career, because we think that we need to always go out and do market research to figure things out. Market research is very important, but there are behaviors right around us um, that tell us where where the next generation will go. What is the drink they are ordering? How are they ordering it? How are they shopping? What is the clothes they are wearing, and so on.
Wow. That last one, surrounding yourself with people who think differently, is one I think we can all sort of take to heart. In today's world where the landscape is changing so rapidly, right? Those of us who have been in and around retail for many years, the way that we learn. So I appreciate you saying I don't necessarily learn through reading so much. The way that we learn needs to change. But right, there's a bit of a lag there as well. So there's muscle memory and habits and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Having, surrounding yourself and trusting, right? It must be, I can only imagine a intern or a college hire having you sit down with them, being a leader in a business, and having you sort of confide and or ask them for their input. I know when I was a young person, that meant the world to me. And so I know that the leadership aspect of what you're talking about is critical.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
a hidden
you.
brain. I'm a hidden brain fan myself. It for the audience, if you haven't listened to, is it Shankar Vedanta?
Shankar Vedantam.
Shankar Vedanta. Okay, yeah, it's fabulous.
Yeah, it's really rooted in research, social research. So I really appreciate once a week getting to hear that. I want to experience the whole host thing as well. And like you said in the beginning, um, you took a promise from me that I'll be a host every once in a while. So indeed. I want to experience that today.
Okay. How shall we do it?
So let me flip it. Why don't you talk a little bit about you and who Vic is?
Yes. And Matt, the host of this channel, he and I did an interview where I talked about who I am. If I wanted to go sort of further, I am a husband and a father, right? I've been married for 32 years or so. I'm a technologist, right? I love tech. My hobby is my job, right? I recently got into 3D printing. Right.
Yeah.
So wow. I'm the guy who will spend like 11 hours on a 3D design, to put a tablet on the wall for home automation. Right. Yeah. And that's just on the design. The printing takes another, 7 or 8, but the machine does that. But I tend to be sort of grounded. I'll give you one anecdote. I was talking with a friend the other day who thinks about the eclipse. And he started talking to me about the solar, not necessarily the solar system, but astronomy and the different, things in the sky, stars and the shapes and that sort of thing. And I told him, I said, I don't sort of look up and ponder so much anymore. I ponder sort of in the midst of a problem, business or personal, or otherwise. I tend to be a problem solver. When my friends and family bring me problems, I might grind on that problem, trying to find a solution that is workable for them, which I think stretches your mind, right? We all have a solution that might work for us, but knowing my parents, for instance, knowing them, I need to sort of rethink that what would work for me may not work for them. And I've learned that the hard way, by the way. And so
That's right.
that is me in a very short sense. Hopefully that gave you what you were looking for.
I think you said a great deal about what you do, but I don't think I got much about who you are. So we're going to try this a different way. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a few questions just so I get to find out who you are.
All right.
Okay. French fries or onion rings?
Oh, gosh. French fries.
Logic or emotion?
Always logic.
Growth or security?
Gosh, okay. Now this one has changed over the time. Is this a time-based thing? It's like the first thing that comes to mind.
It's the first thing that comes to mind.
I think security, and I say that in the interview I did with Matt, we talked about my background being growing up in the military, and I believe in a buffer zone, right? Whether it's in business and that buffer zone is a moat that protects your business, or in personal, that buffer zone is keeping your friends close and having people you can count on close to you. So certainly security. I think growth comes for me personally. It would be security.
Awesome. Free travel for 1 year or free lodging for 5 years?
I say lodging for 5. I travel a good bit in my business, and it's not glamorous. And you travel as well, right? So you get it. There's not a ton of glamour in it. It's the destinations. I would love to go and spend a month. I have colleagues who are sort of unencumbered, if you will, and they will go and spend a month in a cabin in Vail, right? And free lodging. Thank you for that. That's a good one. Do you have more?
It's interesting that you say that, because I always tell my kids a conference room looks the same everywhere. So, talking about traveling for work. Okay, last one, hiking or biking? We cannot not ask this question living in Arkansas.
Oh, indeed. It's funny. So it's biking for me, but I'm a very limited season biker. I have terrible allergies, and I've been in this market for nearly 30 years. And so there are seasons where I'm a shut-in. One of my friends recently described me as an indoorsman. And so biking, but in very slim, so not when the pollen's falling and not when there's leaves on the ground with mold, and it's a mess. But
okay. I feel like now I know you better.
Okay. You're going to plug those into an AI engine, and it might spit out a picture of me, perhaps.
Yeah, I know. Okay, my question to you: how do you think younger people will change the way technology is used in retail as we know it today?
Gosh, I think that, the first thing I would say is that young people won't see it as a change, right? They've been waiting for the rest of us to catch up. Right. And so they will say, aha, finally, we've arrived. I can shop the way that I naturally want to shop, having grown up with a cell phone and an iPad in my hand, that kind of thing. But I think that the next wave of digital shift will cater to Gen Z and beyond. There will be an up level in productivity like we've not seen since the early days of the Industrial Revolution. And so I see AI having a tremendous impact on career selection, right? So the things that our parents and our guidance counselors told us, 35, 40 years ago about what was the right job to pick will change considerably.
Yeah.
And finally, while there's much dismay in old guys like me about the skills falling by the wayside, whether it's cursive or proper grammar and sentence structure, I think Gen Z will be the first generation to define a new syntax, right? Or
That's right.
what I like to call computer speak. Right. And so, from the early days of being a developer, a software engineer, your value is measured by how your ability to speak the language of the computer, right? And we call that
It's
syntax.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that. So I'll tell you a story. So here in my kitchen, one day I had a bunch of, like I said, I'm mother of two college going kids. So I had a bunch of boys, kids of Indian origin, non-Indian origin. There was around 15 of them. So there is this concept of arranged marriage where your parents pick potential partner for you in Indian culture. So somebody who was not Indian asked the group, so what does arranged marriage look like? And one of the kids there said, first the parents swipe right, and then the people who are looking for a match swipe right. And I was like, what is this language? I would have never explained it like that. But so you're right. So the entire language of communication will change. And this is not really syntax, but it will change to a place where syntax will become a part of the language. So I love your thoughts around that.
Yes, I do think that as they're losing precision on spelling and grammar and sentence structure and cursive, they will gain precision on what is the exact prompt, right, if you will, from an AI standpoint that gets in my world today, the lights turned on, or that gets me the route to work on my bike that I prefer. I like riding by a park, right? So if the road is closed, does it route me on like the road, which I don't like, or does it know me and route me around? And how do I sort of um, define that so that the machine gives me back what I want? And so that precision, I think that it will come back. They're not going to be sort of they're not going to be sort of lazy, if you will, with the new paradigm as they shed the old paradigm. So it's going to be fascinating to watch.
My next question to you: how would you advise a small retailer or a CPG company that wants to make it big in today's world? How should they go about it? What do you think as a leader in the industry?
It's interesting. I do work with a good number of small retail sort of startups, and that be including brick and mortar startups and e-com startups. And the first thing I would tell you is market intelligence. And you mentioned it earlier that for some things it's not the end all be all. But I would say the best innovators first understand the market they're trying to disrupt.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can get swallowed, right?
Yeah.
Or eaten by, the competitors, or you can make a misstep if that market doesn't have sort of history to say that it will have a future.
Yeah.
Number two would be brand intelligence and about your own brand. And I think about that, the term would be sticking to the mission.
Yeah.
Right. And that phrase sort of implies that you have a mission. Right.
That's right.
And when I think about the secret sauce for companies, successful retail companies, they have a strong sense of mission. Right. And I could name any number of examples, and we all engage with them. Some of them are not the big, well-known brands, but they are solid retail companies with a long history. And when you look into them, you say, their culture, right, backs up their mission. It's the only way, right, to run a distributed retail environment, whether that distribution is in logistics where you're just fulfilling, or whether you have brick and mortar stores.
Yeah.
And so agility requires a keen sense of mission. It's the only way that you can kind of be agile in market, is to know that here are the guardrails, and within there I can serve the customer.
Yeah.
Finally, I would say fail fast.
Oh my gosh, so important.
Understand that there are very few non-negotiables in how we attack a problem, And the startup don't get sort of bogged in, I must do it this way. I must have 4-foot side counters, right? It's really, do you? I mean, as long as the merchandise is accessible and the pricing and the any kind of documentation is there, do you need a 4-foot side counter? Maybe something less will do. And get everyone on the team clear about that. And you led teams for many years. There's nothing worse than having a portion of your team, a critical portion of your team, get stuck on what I might call a non-negotiable and hold up the whole project. You're like, why are we still waiting on that? Oh, well, I'm waiting for this thing. That's not important. Move forward. So
yeah. I agree with everything that you said. And two things that specifically resonate with me. One is culture. I feel like retail is a very people-heavy and experience-heavy industry. And we can create really good experiences when our employees and associates are all pointed in one direction. That idea of customer first. So thank you for that. And I love failing fast. And technology, I think the worst thing you can do is to be scared of a failure or not talk about your failure. As technology leaders, I feel like it's our job to normalize failing.
Yes.
So in my eyes, that's really, really important.
I think I kind of like the guest position here, where you're asking the questions and I get to talk a bit more. But and so I ask you all the questions that I wanted to. Do you have another one for me?
I actually do. Well, I can ask you questions for another 2 hours, just so you know. Okay. So I feel the way our consumers get influenced today is different. And I think this is a question for both of us.
Yeah.
Given we know people shop differently, what in your mind should companies think about?
Gosh, that's a tough one. Because the reason it's tough is because in the thought leader space, if you will, so we work on this problem every day, right? And so if I think a thought leader, I think what companies should think about is reaching that lifestyle status, right? Coca-Cola, right, could be seen as a lifestyle. There are, people who start their day with a beverage in a can. You might be with, and some of us start with, coffee in a cup. Yeah. And so that's part of who they are. Yeah. And so, being focused enough, back to the stick to the mission, being focused enough to get to know your consumer to the degree that you maximize the value of that consumer. Yeah. You remember there's a story, I think it was Stu Leonard's in the upper Midwest, Wisconsin area. And he taught his employees to see dollar signs on people's heads. Now, today we would think that that's, a little, inhuman but what he was saying is, know that this person has value to us, right? Yeah. Know that this person has value to us. And so getting them to the meat counter and cutting it the way they want it cut, it might seem like a chore to you, but this person will shop here for another 18 years. Yeah. Right. And so this little, 3.5 minute chore can keep a customer coming back. And so that's what I think, to try to understand what it takes to get to lifestyle. And just an example of that meat cutting, lifestyle would be when I have a dinner party or a barbecue or anything like that, everyone knows, or either they don't sort of have to ask where I got the meat. Yeah, I got it at Stu Leonard's. I always get it at Stu Leonard's. Have I told you about how they, treat me and that sort of thing? That you've entered lifestyle categories. Yeah, that's my thinking.
I think the one thing that will not be replaced anytime soon is experience. Whether it be shopping for something really small or be shopping for a really expensive thing. In my mind, the mantra is treating people really, really, really well. Regardless of technology advancements, regardless of how the world changed, that is one thing I feel will not change. So I feel the best way to influence somebody is to give them an experience that they can't wait to come back to you.
Yes.
So that's my thinking on whether it be through technology, whether it be through any time availability, whether it be things like doing what you say you're going to do. If you say that in 2 hours there will be produce in front of my door, then in 2 hours or less, there is produce in front of my door. So I feel those are the things that will continue to stay really important.
Yes, that brand promise is critical to consumers, right? Because if I count on you for that, having a dinner party, I need, shame on me for waiting till the last day to order, right? But I need produce here by 3:00 because I'm going to prep my dinner and be going. And to think that someone would sort of bet their evening experience with friends and family on that brand promise is really powerful. Really
powerful. It is. I really enjoyed being on the host position, by the way.
Did you? That's good. And you're good at it as well. So, in closing, thank you again for being with me. And I'll say that we know the way that people are influenced today has changed. And I'd love to explore the need for ethical AI standards. You alluded to it, but creating standards on something that is evolving near daily is very difficult. And that's, I think, where folks like you and I and others in the ecosystem have to commit to and or define, as I mentioned, define a mission of AI should do these things, right? And it should not do these things, and write them down. I'm a big standards guy as well. Perhaps we can unpack that on another episode.
That sounds great.
Yeah. And so again, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to hold you to the hosting a conversation or two on this platform. And I can't wait to see what interesting thought leaders you will want to have a conversation with. And so until next time, audience, thank you, Namrata Collins.
Thank you. Thanks, Vic. I hope people got something out of this conversation and can't wait to see you again.
Cheers.
Cheers.